Hi everyone, I'm Malcolm Anderson. Today I'm going to be showing you my service learning project that I did for Clark College titled uQlick. Its purpose is to get students to engage with lectures, and I'm really excited to show it off. This video I'm going to be making publicly available, so it's free for anyone to watch. So I had a physics class in fall of last quarter that I really enjoyed. The lectures, like with all of the physics classes, were about 2 hours long, which was a fairly long time for a physics lecture. But the thing that I was kind of new for me in that class was that the professor used these devices called iClickers. It's basically a little remote with buttons on it. And so the professor was able to put questions up in the middle of her lecture and have students buzz in responses to the questions, kind of like a game show. And then based on that, she could judge how well the students were understanding the material and whether she needed to, extrapolate on a certain point more, or if she could move on. And so that's really what I wanted to do with uQlick, is make lectures more engaging for students, as well as allowing professors to gauge their students' understanding more. And I think both of these things will really help improve the quality of education students are getting. So what exactly is uQlick? Well, the basic idea is that basically almost every student has a device of some kind, whether it's a smartphone or a laptop. And of course the professor has, or in many cases at least, has a computer that they can use for their lectures. And so the idea is that students can use their devices in order to answer questions that the professors give them. And as I've said before, this will help students stay engaged in the lecture, as they're having to not only listen and understand the material, but then apply it during the same lecture. And the professors themselves, they can watch the results, the students' responses coming in real time, and figure out how well their students are understanding the material. So originally my plan was to develop uQlick from scratch and learn web development and everything I needed along the way. While I was doing my research, though, I was lucky enough to find a repository on GitHub titled Clicker, and this project pretty much had all of the base functionality I wanted from uQlick. Students being able to receive questions from a professor on their device and respond to it, and the professor can see the student response distribution in real time. So what I ended up doing for the uQlick project was actually taking that existing code base from Clicker and trying to expand upon it and improve upon it. All right, so let's take a look at how uQlick works in practice. On the left side here, I have 2 student accounts, and on the right side here, I have a professor account with a course. So for the students to join the course, they just need to enter this course enrollment code. So I'm going to enroll both of these students, and you can see now that there are 2 students in this course. So I've set up a very simple lecture session of questions for this course. We've just got a couple of different question types, but I can scroll through them here. So uQlick has support for many different kinds of questions. Multiple choice here is pretty basic. So you can enter a variety of different possible answers, select one to be the correct answer, and then students will vote on it. We've got multi-select is basically the same thing as multiple choice, except you can select more than one correct answer. And true and false, similarly, is kind of like multiple choice, but locked to either one of 2 options, true or false. And again, you can select which one is the correct answer. The numerical question involves students having to enter a number in response to the question. And this was one that I worked on a bit to improve for uQlick. So like this very simple question, what is 30 times 2? And the answer is set to 60 with a tolerance of 0. But if you did want to allow students to have some error, you could enter a non-zero number. So say if I said 10, it will now accept any response between 50 and 70. I'm going to leave that at 0. So one of the big things I found is being a computer science student, I've been doing lots of classes in which we have to worry about numbers in other bases than just decimal. So hexadecimal and binary and octal less so. But so for uQlick, one of the goals I had was to implement different number bases for numerical questions. So you can see that here, what is 56 in hexadecimal? And the correct answer is not decimal, is not a decimal number, it's a hexadecimal number. And you can actually go in and change the base, and you can see that it remembers that this 38 in hexadecimal is 56 in decimal. And similarly, we've also got support for binary and octal. So what is 12 in octal is, the correct answer is 14, and you can see if I switch that back to decimal, it is indeed 12. So I'm going to put that back to octal. And similarly, 34 in binary is right here, and you can see that is 34, and you can just switch between these freely as you want. And the nice thing is the tolerance is also customizable with these different number bases. So I could set it to 3, it'll go anywhere within 3, and if I set it to, well, I suppose 3 is, there we go, in binary, 3 goes to 1, 1, and so it fixes that. But internally, the system remembers that this is not, it doesn't remember the string 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, it just remembers the number 34. And so you can see here the allowed range is not changing when I change the number base. So I'm going to set that back to binary. And then the last question type we'll see here once we get into actually doing a course session. The sketch question type, which I actually implemented almost from scratch. I used an existing Sketchpad widget that I found online, but this will allow students to draw a picture in response to a question. All right, so let's take a look at what uQlick is like in action. So I've got here our 2 students who are currently waiting for a question, and on the right, our professor view where they are waiting to start a question. So to show the students a question, all they need to do is click Show Question, and the first question will be displayed to the students. From here, they can simply, the students can look here and choose their response. When they're ready to submit, they can click Submit, and instantly the teacher gets a pie chart, or they can also choose a histogram of how the students have responded so far. So let's say this other student says false, and submit, and the professor can see half of the students, one of the 2 students chose each item. And the correct answer gets this check mark next to it, so the professor can quickly and easily see what % of students picked the correct answer. To move on, professor simply hits next, and now we have an example of a numerical question. The professor can see the correct answer and what kind of tolerance there is. So let's say this student says 21 and submits that, and this student, let's say, submits 12 and submits that. So you can see again, professor gets an instant representation of how the students have answered. The numerical other bases also works. So here it's saying this is what the correct answer is, and this is what the tolerance is. In this case, it's 0. So let's say this student says 1, 1, 1, 0, the correct answer, I believe. Submit that, and this student says 1, 1, 1, 1, and submit that. And so this is actually displaying what the answers that the students gave in decimal is. So you can see, 30 in binary shows up here, and I guess this is 21 in binary. So let's move on to the next one. This is the sketch question, which I actually developed almost from the ground up for uQlick. I had to use an existing Sketchpad widget for JavaScript, but then I added in these tools for editing and coloring and such. So like this question here, let's draw a circuit. So you can select a brush strength, and you can just drag on the screen in order to draw. And so let's put a little resistor here. You could go around and back, and with that we can submit, and you can see here that the student's response shows up on the professor's view. We can choose again different strengths or different pen sizes. So I think like this is a really big chunky pen. We can do this around, but I can hit submit here, and you can see now both students their drawings show up here. So I wanted to go and take a minute to talk about help documentation, which was something I felt was rather lacking in the original Clicker software. I think the help link was kind of hard to find, and then it actually took you to some external website. The documentation wasn't actually a part of the Clicker software itself. And that was something that I wasn't really very happy with. And so in uQlick, one of my goals was to improve the help documentation and make it easier to find and easier to work through. So in uQlick, the help documentation is always available here at the top bar. If you just click on help, and then it breaks it down into different types of accounts. Student accounts, of course, are used by students. Professors are professors. Institutional administrators is a third account type that was created to manage institutions, because uQlick is meant to be a service that we could offer to multiple institutions or colleges schools, at the same time. Whereas Clicker originally seemed to be built more for one school to use at a time. So the purpose of institutional administrators is to manage a single school and the professors and students within that school. But we've got these different help documentation sections for the different account types. And so, for example, if you're a student and you're not sure how to review a course session, you can just go here and click Review a Course Session and read the information about it. Go Return to Help. If you want to learn how to join a course, click there and you instantly get just the information you wanted. You don't have to parse through a big long document. For the professors, it is a bit lengthier. I believe Create a Course Session, have a lot of documentation and discussion of how to use the editor in order to create questions. And so, you can just go through, click through, and read all of these different articles. In addition, down here we've got some links for contact forms. Get Support form just links to a Google Docs form for general contact, and similarly the bug report one goes to a report form for bug reports. So I'm happy with the progress I made on uQlick over the past several months, but in the future, if I continue to work on it, there are definitely some things I'd like to focus more on. One of the big things for me is working on a native mobile app for uQlick, so that students wouldn't have to go through a website on their phone in order to access it. I've noticed oftentimes using a website on the mobile phone that's kind of supposed to be optimized for mobile, it can get to be kind of clunky with scrolling and such. This was actually a project I started kind of looking into and doing some preliminary work on. I initially started trying to build an iOS app for uQlick using the Swift UI framework, and progress was going well. Unfortunately, the Meteor framework that I use that interfaces with the database for uQlick online suddenly started to experience some really weird issues that I couldn't figure out, and so I ended up just stopping working on it because I didn't feel it was worth it to keep trying. It seemed to be an issue on the framework side, not on my end. Later on, I started looking into a framework called React Native, which actually uses a lot of the same technologies that the uQlick website uses. It's the React and JavaScript frameworks and languages. And so I think in the future, if I am to work on a uQlick mobile app, I'll probably go with React Native. The great thing about it is that it's also cross-platform, so I could develop an iOS app and an Android app kind of at the same time, instead of the Swift UI app, which would be iOS only. A feature of Pull Everywhere that I saw and I really liked was this PowerPoint plugin system, where instead of the professor having to exit out of their PowerPoint presentation and then slide over to a web view window where they can set up the question stuff, the professor could actually embed a poll question inside of their PowerPoint, and so simply when they arrived at that slide, the question would activate for the students, and they can go and answer it, and the distribution results would show up on screen. So I looked into working on this. Unfortunately, the development tools for PowerPoint plugins leave something to be desired, and especially for Mac users, it looked like there wasn't really any way to do development on PowerPoint plugins using a Mac, which is what I have, and so that meant I wasn't really able to do anything or make substantial progress with that. But definitely in the future, if I was to continue working on uQlick and expanding it out, using a Windows machine to work on PowerPoint plugin for uQlick so that professors could embed questions in their slides. I think that's something that would be really, really helpful. Working on uQlick was a really new experience for me. I had to learn about web development, including using JavaScript, React, and the Meteor framework. And I was also, for the first time, or one of the first times, taking someone else's code and building upon it rather than building my own code base from the ground up. Both of these aspects were definitely posed some challenges. In terms of taking someone else's code base, that was actually kind of a deliberate choice on my part, because I recognize in the workforce, in most cases, I'm not going to be told, okay, you need to build this code, from scratch. It's going to be, I'm going to be given an existing code base, and I'm going to be expected to maintain and make changes and improvements to it. So with this project, I really wanted to get a taste of that. and learn what it's like to have to take an existing code base and understand it and make modifications to it. So in the end, I'm really happy I got to work on uQlick. I think whether it be in web development skills specifically or just taking someone else's code base and building upon it, it's taught me a lot of skills that I'll be able to use in the workforce and in education beyond. So that's it for my presentation. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment and I'll try and respond. Thanks.